top water of the day. We're going to talk walking baits today, and the king of all water baits as well, the Heddon Zara Spook. Are you ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. The Heddon Zara Spook. This is the king of all walking baits right here, and my favorite of all walking baits, period. My favorite color is probably blue, the Blue Shore Minnow. Just a translucent, clear Blue Shore Minnow. A very close second that I love a lot too. They brought this color out a couple of years ago. I think they're still making them. Is the translucent perch. You know me and Heddon and translucent perch. Just love that color pattern on a Heddon. But these are my two favorites right here. You notice they're clear. Now there are chrome, black, there's all kinds of different colors under the rainbow they make these things with. But I tend to stick with more natural colors because I'm going to fish this in clear water. I'm not really going to fish it in slightly stained water. I'd probably throw that if I was throwing slightly stained water, just because it's got a little bit of color to it. But you're constantly moving this thing. To me, this is not a bait that you walk, stop and go, stop and go. I've caught nothing on the stop and go. Everything I've caught has been working it back to me. Modification I do to them. Modification, I don't modify lures at all. One thing I do is I will loosen the back screw on these hangers and put a split ring in there. And you can replace it with the long shank performance hooks if you want to. I've got size 1 Eagle Claw long shank black nickel. The ones that come on them I actually think are fine, especially if you sharpen them. I mean, they work just fine. But a long shank hook, you can use an Owner ST Stinger. Whatever you feel like you need to use or you have confidence in using, that's what you want to stick with. I would not use a short shank hook on these baits, even an oversized short shank hook, because they're hitting this thing when they're moving, and the more reach you've got down here with the hooks, the better your chances are of hooking that fish. There are a lot of missed strikes on a spook, but normally when you get one, it's a pretty jarring strike. I mean, they hit that sucker hard. Another thing I do too is I put a very small, about number 2 size oval split ring on the front. I used to tie directly to these things, and they work just fine like that. But I experimented one time with like a loop knot, and I actually got better action out of it. So I went ahead and put a split ring on them, and especially with the hooks going everywhere, you get a little bit better action. Because if you leave them without split rings, they only go certain point and they stop. And to me, that's a crowbar for a bass. He will throw it. Pound test, you can probably get away with 12. I would stick with 14, 17 max, because there's only like 1,000 different in diameter. But 20 pound and up, now you're starting to lose quite a bit of action. So I would stick with 14 and even 17. If you're making really long casts with this bait, 17 might be your better bet because you won't have as much line stretch. Or if you're very careful on how you work it, you can use braid. But just keep in mind, using braid, this thing's going to be a lot sharper turns. So you kind of have to rework how you do a spook if you're going to use braid, because this will have a lot more action and you can actually overpower it. So that's something you don't want to do. I like monofilament. That's what I throw these on, and that's just what I prefer. Spinning rod, you can throw them on a spinning rod. Now these are 3/4 ounce. So on a spinning rod, you're going to be able to juke that sucker out there pretty hard. But remember, if you're going to start using 14, 17 pound test on a spinning rod, you're going to have a hard time casting that. Okay, especially at a distance. So personally, I like bait casting gear. Anywhere from 5.5 to whatever you're comfortable with, 7.5, whatever. The rods I'm making, that I'm building, the performance rods I'm building, they're all 6'10s. And so just kind of what I'm going with on that. But as far as my old stuff that I've got put together, anywhere from 5.5 to 6 foot rods, even 6.5 foot rods. So Rod choice is up to you, but I would definitely suggest a bait casting outfit and 14 to 17 pound test, preferably 14. You're probably going to be happier with 14 pound. Now, what about your retrieve speed on your reel? Again, I think that's personal preference. But just remember, the higher their gear ratio, say your 7s and your 8 to 1s, the less you're going to want to turn that reel as you're working that spook. Otherwise, you're going to start pulling it to you as you're working it because of the reel speed. 5 to 1 works fine. 6 to 3 works fine. Even the old style stuff at like 4 to 1s or 3.8 to 1s, they work just as fine too. Just remember you have to reel it out just a little bit faster to keep up with this bait. But I'll be honest, I'll throw these on a 3.8 like an old Daiwa Millionaire. I wouldn't have any problem with that. And my brain automatically gears for what reel I have anyway. I've thrown these so long I don't even think about it anymore. I can just do it. And a lot of you guys might even have a hard time walking these baits because it is a timing issue. For every twitch, they try to tell you, quarter of a turn for every twitch or whatever it is you're doing with this thing. You can work them fast, you can work them slow. Me personally, if I find a cadence, that's what I stick with. But your timing of these baits, the cranking versus the twitching, is just something you're going to have to work with. I can tell you, for every twitch to a quarter turn, I can say that. But what if you're using a 7 to 1 reel? Because that might actually work for me on a 5 to 1 reel. That's kind of a hard medium there to kind of tell you what to do. You're just going to have to throw them and practice them. Some of you guys might actually be smoking great on these things, and that's, why tell you anything else? But some of you guys never thrown these before, or have never really seen any information on this as far as what kind of tackle and everything else. So I'm trying to help you with this a little bit. As far as the action of your rod, I would stick with a medium. But if I'm making really, really long casts as far as I can go, if I've got a really good soft tip, I'll throw it on a medium heavy. Just remember, when you get them towards the boat, back that drag off on your reel so you can give them line in case that rod might be a little too stiff for the side of the boat. But chances are, when they get these things, they're pinned pretty good. So just keep your eye on it, because I have had them I've had them jump beside the boat and throw this back at me. So you got to be very careful to make sure you have a limber rod. Like I said, medium to a medium heavy is fine. Just to, when you go for a medium heavy, just kind of make sure what kind of action you got. You don't want a broomstick. You don't want an extra fast action medium heavy. You want either a moderate or just a regular fast action. I like a regular fast action myself as far as throwing stuff like this. So anyway, that's all I have for these guys. The Heddon Zara Spook, standard size, 3/4 ounce. They just don't get any better than this. They're silent. They don't make any noise. And that's the beauty of them. Ow! I know I hurt myself. Heddon Zara Spook. If you ain't got one, go to the store and try one, because these are the best walking baits you'll ever get your hands on. So until next time, may the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, fish on.